everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up a clear CO2 injection system. The CO2 injection system is really powerful from Clear. If you didn't know, which I didn't a few years ago, you can inject CO2 gas, so commonly found, at restaurants, bars, etc. You can inject that into water, and that reaction basically creates a kind of weak acid called carbonic acid. So if you're used to dumping that muriatic acid in your pool, this still creates a kind of acid which will lower the pH, but also keep your pool really well balanced. So we're going to show you how to hook this system up today. It does save a lot of money, and for customers it does save a lot of time, and it's just a great safe alternative to the muriatic acid you've been using today. So not a lot's required. We'll get into that. We've got the CO2 injection kit from Clear. We've got the Clear controller over there mounted on the wall. I'll show y'all how to hook this up today, so let's get going. All right, so to hook up the Clear CO2 injection system, we will need the following things today. First is you'll either need a full Clear control board or a Clear light. Both the full and the light have the terminals to wire up the CO2 regulator, which we have up here. So you can then purchase the CO2 injection kit from Clear on their website. So you get this regulator, which goes on a CO2 tank, comes with a fail-safe ball valve, comes with about 5 to 6 feet worth of hose that goes outside. You've got a check valve on the hose, which is there. And then this is a 1/4-inch NPT thread. So this will actually can screw in a bunch of places. We'll show in the video at least one today. But this can actually go into top of a filter tank. You can also use a hose bib. So this is a hose to 1/4-inch NPT fitting that you can find online. Amazon has these for around $10. So a lot of pools will have the hose bib just up top of the pump. So this is an easy no-cut way to get the 1/4-inch NPT to inject. You'll get the cover, which goes over the tank and the regulator to prevent those from being affected by the elements. And then the last thing you will need to make the injection system work today, so you either need to purchase this from Clear, which is their pressure sensor, or you need to be able to add a variable speed pump, either in monitoring mode or control mode. And the reason for that is that the CO2 dosing system won't dose gas unless it detects that the pump is running, or if it sees pressure, on the filter, which would also indicate the pump is running. Pretty smart and safe. It just prevents gas and acid from being created when the pump's not running. So we'll need all these things, and yeah, let's get to it. And safety first. First thing we'll do is shut off the breaker to the pump, since we're going to be working with the cabling, so should be easy to find. This one's labeled, so I'll go ahead and do that. All right, and here we are with our CO2 kit. So I've got the 25-pound CO2 tank there, and brought the regulator outside and the cover, and then we've already got our Clear controller mounted up on the wall. The first thing that we'll really need to do is figure out where we are going to inject. So as we mentioned in setup, typically there is a hose valve up here where you can use that piece from Amazon, which converts the hose thread to a 1/4-inch NPT thread to inject. This pool actually already has a cap here with a 1/4-inch thread, so that's probably the place that I'm going to put it there today. The other useful place you can put it, especially on like these Hayward filters, it's real easy. You can buy a T, and then you can actually inject top of the filter tank, which can also work. You can also get a saddle clamp. This pool doesn't have a lot of room, it's a pretty small pad, but you could use saddle clamp to actually inject after the chlorinator, whether it's a salt cell or chlorinator. So I'll go ahead and probably pick here today to inject. So let me show you how we get everything hooked up. All right, so the next step is to take the regulator here and attach it to the CO2 tank. We're going to want to put a little bit of Teflon tape on that since there's not already there. So let's go ahead and do that now. Now, as you're screwing this on, it will hand tighten and you'll see you can do this for a while. However, I do highly recommend once you get this pretty tight to go grab either a big wrench or channel locks to get that extra tighten on there, just to make sure all that is nicely fit together. So I'm gonna go grab just a pair of channel locks and finish making this as tight as it can be. So I got the channel locks here, and I'll just go ahead and tighten that all the way up, and then we'll be ready to undo the wire and just go hook this up on the injection side. So let me finish tightening real quick. And with that tightened, we actually want to test to make sure that that fitting is good. So with the tank pointed away from you, just for safety, we can go ahead and open up the tank. So just start slow, okay? And once that's open, you'll see actually the gauges jump. So here's how to read this. This gauge on the left, this is the pressure actually inside the tank itself. So you'll see we filled it up at the welding store all the way full. And then on this side, this is in PSI. So this gauge is going to tell you essentially what your injection pressure is, or what the pressure is going into the pool when, or the pipes when we inject. So we're going to come back to this later in the video because this pressure is kind of important to play around with to make sure we get enough gas flowing into the pool. And so I'm going to actually come set the tank so it's pretty close. You can set it by the pool. Again, carbon dioxide is actually relatively an inert gas, so it doesn't explode. It's in bars and restaurants and all over the place, so it's a pretty safe gas. However, this is obviously under a lot of pressure, so just be careful as you move it. Make sure the regulator's on tight. I've undone the cable, so here's our nice injection point. So I'm going to take this piece. I'm going to remove that from there as well. If you're going to do it at the filter, you just with the pump off, you want to go ahead and unscrew that, and in your T, get some Teflon tape on here, and you're just going to screw it in nice and tight, and that should be it. So let me go ahead and do that now. All right, and you'll see we've got that nice and tight there at the top. So got that all coming back and to the regulator. So this is all hooked up now. The only thing that we will need to do is undo this cord, and we're going to run this cable back to the clear controller and get that all set up, wired up, and then we'll go to the app and put all this together, and hopefully we'll be injecting CO2 to balance our pH shortly. All right, so I'm running the white wire from the regulator, that ball valve, all the way back to the clear controller here. And in our different videos, we show you how to get a clear controller set up and online connected to Wi-Fi. And so again, remember I talked about that we will need either a pressure sensor or a pump, either in control mode or monitoring mode, for this to work and to dose correctly. So I've got a Hayward pump down here, TriStar, all hooked up, so that's on here. And essentially here, I'm going to connect the black wire to ground and the red wire to CO2. And that's really all I have to do. And then we'll go add everything in the app. And just for reference, there's what the final wiring looks like. So we should be all set here and be able to go add this in the app. All right, so there's a few things we're going to go through in the app. So let me talk about those now. So to add CO2 in the app, there's two ways that Clear uses CO2. One is you can manually dose your system, which is great. To manually dose, again, we either need the pump there, or you need to have pressure, right? And so both of those have to be available in order to manually dose. If you want to auto dose, which is great, what auto dosing does is it looks at the pH of your pool. You can set a set point of, let's say, 7.5, and Clear will dose just enough carbon dioxide gas in order to keep your pool exactly at 7.5. So that's really great. It solves a huge problem, a huge hassle messing with acid. And so I'll show you how to do both of those now. So to even add CO2 as a piece of equipment, we need to do settings. So standard protocol from our other videos, go to devices. Now, as you'll see here, I've already added the filter tank pressure and the Hayward pump that I had outside. So I'm going to go ahead now. Those need to be added first, and I'll go ahead and add the CO2. So I hit add, hit pool equipment, scroll down, CO2 is there on the left. Now you'll see I can change the name, but there's no other real settings for that, and I'll talk about that in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now that may take a little bit of time, so I'll go back and look at my device. I'm going to wait for it to show up, which it should shortly. And there it is. So now I have this, and so if I wanted to, if the pump were on outside, we haven't flipped the breaker back on. If the pump were active and running and we had some PSI, I can actually go click on CO2 where it says closed right now. And we offer you essentially a 5-second play button to dose 5 seconds worth of gas. Now, I'll cover in just a bit why 5 seconds can mean different things depending on the pressure and speed of your pump, but this is a great way. If I want to do this, I can hit play. It would say start CO2 for 5 seconds, but actually the safety mechanism in Clear, it won't actually dose because the pump's not running. So this is one way, and this is a good way to manually dose. However, Clear has an even better feature, which is the autopilot, the auto dose that we just talked about. So we can find the auto dosing under autopilot, but it's going to tell me that I don't have either a smart skimmer or an inline sensor added, so I won't be able to do this. So I'll show you that shortly. Let's just go add. So assume you have the inline probe or a smart skimmer. We can go add those. So I'll just go add the pH sensor. Okay. Will show up in just a second. There it is. All right, and now if I go back to settings, I go to autopilot. All right, now I have the autopilot settings. So if I scroll down, this is where you're going to find automatic dosing. Automatic dosing, basically we just are going to enable that. Now there are terms and conditions here. Essentially this says you are responsible for setting the pressure. You are responsible for operating the CO2 dosing system. Effectively, Clear is just providing you the tools. You're basically saying you're going to set it up right, so I'm going to agree. And now I can go change the set point. So if I want to keep the pH in my pool a little bit higher, I'll pick 7.5. And the frequency basically says how often do you want it to dose. And so I'm just going to leave the default, but you can change that. And now in order for this to work, we need to set our equipment preferences. So I need to set that the pump should be referenced for looking at the dosing. And I could also go say that the pressure sensor should as well. And then I want it to reference essentially the inline sensors. So all of this should be fine, and it's not going to let me save because effectively my pump is off right now, but these are the settings that you do, and this is all you need to do to set up the app for auto dosing for CO2. And I'm going to go back to the breaker here and go ahead and flip it on. Now here's the last step that you need to configure. So we need to make sure that the injection pressure, or the pressure that's basically going to come in right here, that pressure actually needs to be higher than the pressure coming out of the pump. So a good rule of thumb is you can usually set the pressure to a PSI in between 20 and 30. That's usually a safe pressure to dose gas into even a variable speed system. And so in order to change the pressure, what you're going to do is you're going to pop out this red piece here. So it clicks out, and then you basically turn it to the right to increase that pressure. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up to 20. Now, you can go check your filter pressure gauge when your pump is running and make sure there's about 7 to 10 PSI difference. That's just a good number for an adequate amount of gas to flow without using too much. And so you may have to do this a couple of times, just change the pressure, see what your pump's gonna run on your filter tank, but this should basically set the gas. As soon as you're done with that, we'll just put this cover on and we're good to go.